At Apex Radiology, we do more than just imaging. We provide answers, clarity, and peace of mind. We offer a full range of diagnostic imaging services, from X-rays to ultrasounds, CT scans, MRIs, mammograms, fluoroscopy, and interventional studies. We pride ourselves on accuracy and timely reporting because we know every answer matters. With locations in Kingston and Ocherius, our team is here to serve you with care and expertise. Call us at 929-APEX to book your appointment today. Apex Radiology, the clear choice for all your diagnostic needs.
Good morning. It is my absolute pleasure to be here as the host of the IPCL earnings call for the financial year that ended February 28th, 2026. I'm Renee McDonald, the CEO and Investor Relations Lead at Learn Grow Invest. And with me today is Mrs. Kisha Anderson, the CEO of IPCL, that's Image Plus Consultants Limited, also known as Apex Radiology. And she will be taking you through the numbers and the context behind the numbers that you would have seen in the audited financial report. Also, she will be speaking to you about what you can expect from Apex coming in the near future. So please join me in welcoming Mrs. Kisha Anderson.
Morning, Renee, and morning to the community and to those who will watch this after it is actually originally aired. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here representing on behalf of the entire team here at Apex Radiology.
Always a pleasure, Kisha, to have you on board. And we do, as always, anticipate your detailed report so that we can have a healthy discussion at the end of it. Just to let our audience know that there will be a Q&A segment at the end where Kisha will be here to answer your questions. So, Kisha, at this point, I want to hand over to you to kick off with prayer.
Great, thank you. And if you'd permit me this morning, I hope everybody will join as I actually read the national anthem instead of our traditional prayer.
Lovely.
So, Eternal Father, bless our land. Guide us with thy mighty hand. Keep us free from evil powers. Be our light through countless hours. To our leaders, great defender, grant true wisdom from above. Justice, truth be ours forever. Jamaica land we love. Teach us true respect for all. Stir response to duty's call. Strengthen us the weak to cherish. Give us vision lest we perish. Knowledge send us, Heavenly Father. Grant true wisdom from above. Justice, truth be ours forever. Jamaica, land we love. Morning, everyone, again. It is my absolute pleasure to be able to represent the IPCL team and to share our financial results for the year that ended February 2026. I would like to just give you an idea of what you can anticipate. I'll start off with some remarks. We'll go through the financial statements. I'll tell you a little bit about what to expect in the year ahead. And then we will share some of our activities as we culminate this year, our 30th anniversary, or celebrate rather our 30th anniversary. So what would I say about the year in retrospect? I think that IPCL has demonstrated to the market and to its shareholders that we are a company and a brand that is built to last. We have displayed resilience, and I tell you why I say so. We have displayed a commitment to honor our word in terms of the things that we say we're going to do, being transparent, and we've also demonstrated that we can lay a steady pathway towards growth, and that is sustainable growth for the future. So why do I say that we're resilient? In the year, the entire country would have been impacted by Hurricane Melissa. Of course, we here in the east of the island would have much less impact than Western Jamaica. But I'm happy to say that even though we did have the effects out of bands of a Category 5 hurricane that landed on Tuesday, October 28th, we were actually able to reopen our locations in Kingston on the Wednesday, October 29th, and we actually opened our Ocherius branch on the 30th. What that showed is that our disaster recovery and our business continuity plans that are actually in place worked. we were able to power down and power back up. We were able to ensure that our team members were all well and safe, and to be able to connect with them the next day so that they could be with us to work. And it's important because on that very first day, the very next morning at our Winchester Road location, a patient came in was in severe pain to do an ultrasound, and we ended up having to rush him to KPH to do surgery. So it's at those moments that you realize that you may do plans and you're thinking of things for the future, but they really have an impact towards helping save lives. And so I'm very proud that we were able to open back in Ocho Rios. We're able to open back and operate it on our generator for a period of about 3 weeks. So what we saw was that the business itself was up and ready. In Ocho Rios, we would have had some delays to picking back up business as usual because the community around obviously was more impacted, and our patients needed some time to be able to recover either personally or because they were helping family members, which we understood. So we would have seen our numbers pick up a little slowly there in Ocho Rios. I'm also happy in that period that as a company, we were able to provide meaningful support to 2 organizations, Food for the Poor and the Jamaica Cancer Society, which we chose to support because these are entities that we know have systems in place to offer support to others. So I believe that we've displayed that we're resilient. In addition, in the financial year ended 2025, we would have seen an impact to our business because of the change in the Ministry of Health's approach towards their outsourcing arrangement, where we would have seen some regions actually stop outsourcing based on budgetary constraints and some reduce the levels of outsourcing. So if we look back at our numbers in financial year 2024, over 40-something% of our cases would have been from MOH referrals. In 2025, it would have been over 25%. And in 2026, it would have been less than 5%, which is a significant reduction, but we do still see that our revenues were able to grow. So that demonstrates that the brand that we are and the value that we represent, we were able to convert those patients from being subsidized by the Ministry of Health to actually patients who choose to pay and come and use our services. And therefore, that would have had a lot of implication as it relates to our cash flow position, which would have been seen in our cash flows in the financial statements that were just produced. So I think we have displayed resilience. We have shown that we honored our word in that we actually indicated to our shareholders at our AGM at the end of financial year 2025 that besides continuing to offer the service that we do and grow, we would close on 2 acquisitions, and we would have made significant strides in our development at 33 LMR, which will host our new head office and the majority of our services from 3A Winchester Road. And I'm happy to say, we don't have a picture in this deck today, but at our AGM, we'll be able to show some video of actually where we are. But the construction is far ahead from our project monitor reports. Everything is being done according to standard that it's supposed to be, and they're satisfied with the quality of the work being done. And as it relates to readiness, we will see that the actual 2 floors that we will occupy, we're about to start interior works, looking at our electrical and the other build-out items that are required to have us up and running before the end of this calendar year. As it relates to the acquisitions, we were able to successfully close in financial year 2026 the acquisition of the Woman's Place at 1 Stanton Terrace. We believe this was critical because it helps to cement our name in a new modality for our brand, which is mammography. And we do know that people generally tend to be attracted to who they know and what they know in terms of providing a service. And we have seen where the acquisition has raised the awareness that IPCL Apex Radiology does offer mammography. And we actually have seen the increase in our numbers, which we'll see in a few moments in the deck. The second acquisition, which was announced when we published our financial year 2026 audited results, is for Island Radiology, which I'll speak a little bit about further in the deck. But I think, again, it just demonstrates that what we say we're going to do, we're very purposeful and we take the deliberate action towards doing it. And the last thing I'd like to say is that though this year the growth would be a modest level, I think that we have demonstrated that even in the midst of all of that, we are able to focus and still grow the business. And I think that our shareholders who have been patient with us for the last 2 years will see that benefit redound to them as we are on a solid platform for growth. And I believe our Q1 numbers, which will come out just about the time of our AGM, will also demonstrate that. So I think that sums up how I'd like to start the presentation as I now go into the numbers, and I thank you for the questions that I know will follow. All right, so let's look at our financial highlights. So for the year, we delivered 1.09 billion in revenue, which is up just a modest 1%. But in light of all the challenges that went through as a country and the change out in our source of referrals to mostly private patients and patients from the public system who are paying for themselves, I think it is a credible performance. Our gross profit actually improved by 3.5% to just over 712 million, which actually reflects the strides that we have made in our inventory and procurement management. I believe that we have kept steady the rate between our direct costs and our revenue in the region of about 35%. And I believe that by doing so, we're demonstrating that we are prudent as it relates to the management of our direct costs. It also shows that the amount of spend that others may spend on machine servicing and repairs and maintenance is not an issue that plagues us, because we have relatively newer models for most of our modalities, and where they're not new, we actually have a very proactive preventative maintenance schedule that keeps everything in good order. Our profit after tax went up just over 10% to 48.7 million. I'll speak about that a little bit more when I look at the quarterly numbers next, because we will note that that includes a gain on business acquisition for the Woman's Place purchase, which I'll explain a little bit more. Our scan count also showed a rebound, but going up by 3%, a little over 3% to 55,147 scans, and our earnings per share remained flat at 0.04 cents per share. All right, so let's take a look at the quarters. I think that the takeaway from this view of it is that if you recall, in our last financial year 2025, we had seen in the last quarter an increase in our revenue levels. Remember, for the majority of financial year 2025, we'd seen our revenue numbers dip year over year, but in the last quarter, it started to show a rebound. And this quarterly breakdown actually shows that the trend continues. We note, however, that in Q2, the revenue levels fell to below 260 million. And I think when I look back, and we look back as a company and a board at all our other quarters since we've listed, we recognize that Q2, which for us now would be June, July, and August, tends to be one that seems to be impacted by seasonality. Those are, as we all know, the summer months, and those are the months where expenses probably shift, where certain decisions around healthcare, unless it's really critical, may be placed on hold while people enjoy other expenditure items. So we do notice that Q2 is seasonally low for us. But outside of that, if you look, Q1, 267 million in revenue went up to 277 million in Q3, and then 288 million in Q4, and the trend is continuing into this new financial year. Our gross profit, we do see an improvement as the quarters went on, and it's really driven by the level of revenue, because the ratio of direct cost to revenue pretty much remains consistent. Our admin expenses, we know that it went up in Q4, and that's really consistent for the other quarters. That's really driven by some of the one-off costs associated with the acquisition of the entities that we are looking towards. Depreciation and amortization flat in the region of about 28 to 29 million, and our other expenses, there is an increase in the fourth quarter, and I think I should just stop to say something about that. So that actually is more linked to our provision for vacation accruals. And I guess based on our size now and some of the activities that occurred in the last year, we actually have a few more team members than normal that would have carried forward a few more days than normal. And that's something that we're actively managing. It should not recur. And then as the quarters go by and we see the team members take their vacation, quite a few would have been in Q1, and some took in Q2. We'll see this number actually reverse. And so we see our operating. we see our operating profit going from 23.6 million in the first quarter to 19.4 million in the second quarter, 19.9 million in the third quarter, and then 14.3 million in quarter four. All right, let me say something about the business gain. So when we purchased the Woman's Place, a very deliberate action that we took was to ensure that, one, the patients would continue to be happy with the services being provided through Apex Radiology. And so we invited the previous owner, who Dr. Werner Reed, had been in the business for some 20 plus years, and that level of confidence that women and their families place in her is not something that is, can be easily bought or transferred. So she remains an active part of what we are offering, and she actually reached out to her patients, inviting them to continue using the services, especially since she will also continue being a reporting radiologist and working from the location. And we also would have purchased some assets, which would have been the equipment, and we would have purchased the brand name, the Woman's Place, because we have been saying that it is at that one Stanton Terrace location. It's the Woman's Place brought to you by Apex Radiology. And as we move that operation to 33 Lady Musgrave, when that location, is ready at the end of this calendar year, then we are rebranding all of our mammography and ultrasound suites to the Woman's Place, because it really is a place that we want women to feel comfortable to come to do their screening and to actively participate in doing their screening in their best interest. And so we would have seen that what we paid for it there actually is a gain on that acquisition, because we, in other words, negotiated a bargain price based on the future earning potential of the assets that were bought. And then we will note, therefore, that our finance costs also would have started to go down. We would have used less of our overdraft, as a cash flow position would have improved, and as we start to pay down on some of our older loan facilities, and of course we would have paid off in the last financial year, in this financial year, in the quarter 4 at the end of December, we'd have paid off the receivables recourse liability that we had incurred when we got into some cash flow challenges in the prior financial year. So our net profit position ends the year at 48.67 million, which would include that gain on the sale of on the purchase of the business. We would say that if we had reduced that, and it would be somewhere in the region of 38 million, but if we had added back the vacation, which would have been common to last year, and we would have added back some of the acquisition costs, our one-time costs, then year over year would be relatively flat. But because of the gain on the acquisition of the business, we are up 10% to 48.7 million. So I hope that adds some clarity for our shareholders. All right, so if we look at the ratios, which tend to give a better indication of the direction of the business, we see our admin expense ratio not quite where we want it to be. We would like to see it return to the levels of below 40%. And some of the acquisitions, or the acquisition that we're doing in this, completing this financial year 2027, will help to do that, because we will be purchasing a business that will be bringing new revenues with not the same level of overhead expenses. And so the revenue growth will be at a faster pace to help with this admin expense ratio in the right direction. So if you see at 65.5%, we are back in the direction of where we were in 2023 when we listed. Our net profit margin position also is making a slow recovery, but it's headed there, and the net profit position will also improve with the acquisition of the second entity, as again, that being a larger entity will drive the revenue growth at a faster pace, and I'll explain a little bit more about that in a few slides. And our total staff count went up minimally between 2025 and 2026 to now land at 86 persons. We may have 1 and 2 others to add to what I'd call the original business, which is as we stand now, in addition to the business at the portfolio that we are acquiring through Island Radiology, because we would be staffing for those locations, obviously to be able to run the operations there. But outside of the 86 for the original business portfolio, we're not going to see significant growth on this side. All right, so if we look at cost management, our direct costs are actually down by 3.2%, or admin expenses are up 3.5%, but that, of course, is less than the rate of inflation. So I think that is good, all things considered. And our salaries and related expenses are only up 1.8% to 325 million. Recall that we would have, in prior years, we would have staffed up, done cross-training to get to the levels that we figured we needed to, with our plans to actually grow the business and acquire some portfolios. So we had put in place additional radiographers, for example, to ensure we could deliver the new modalities, and we were training more sonographers, which in a minute, when I speak about our ultrasound numbers, you can see the benefit that that actually gives us. Our depreciation and amortization is up 5.4% to 114 million, and our liabilities are down 19.4%, in large part because we paid out in the year the recourse liability, receivables recourse liability. All right, so if we look at our scan count, remember I'd indicated that we're up 55,000, we're up to 55,147 scans, which is 3.2% above where we ended financial year 2025. We will see that there's growth really in two modalities to a large extent, ultrasounds and mammographies. The mammographies will come some part from the acquisition of the Women's Place portfolio, but a large portion also because we're actually growing that number per day at our Otrius and Malines Road locations. I had explained in an earlier earnings call that actually we track it down to the number of scans per day per modality based on our targets and how we do our bookings, because of course we're looking to maximize each day and to ensure that our productivity levels are at a certain point. And so we'd have seen growth in our ultrasounds. Now, why are we able to do that? Because our ultrasounds are not only administered by our radiologists, but also by our sonographers. So I know other entities will talk about not having enough technical staff. We don't find that issue. We don't have a high staff turnover, and we have done work towards growing and developing our team members in that area. And we actually now have in-house 6 sonographers who would have at some point been a radiographer and would have been trained and upgraded their skills, done the necessary exams, done the necessary mentoring and training on the job, and are actually able to deliver fully as competent sonographers. That allows us, therefore, to have more than one ultrasound room in quite a few of our locations, and therefore we can maximize the level of throughput as it relates to ultrasounds. Why does that matter for our referring doctors and their patients? It means that you don't have to wait a long time for an appointment. So if you go to the doctor and get a referral and you need an appointment quickly, then we can facilitate. For us, it means that we can do double the number of ultrasounds per day in each of the locations, and we can actually see where that strategy has paid off and has allowed us to deliver the throughput. Our mammography strategy I shared earlier in my introduction, that the awareness of the Woman's Place drove the awareness of us offering mammograms. And so we see that increasing, and we also see that we're benefiting from more large groups who are utilizing our services to deliver to either employees or benefactors, because there are groups from overseas who are supporting local Jamaican women to get screened. And we also noticed most recently after the hurricane that we have quite a few persons coming from Western Jamaica, where there are not many, if any, based on what they have said, facilities still offering mammograms during this time. So we see that number growing, and we see the awareness growing, and we're pleased that people are choosing and trusting us based on the level of service and the quality of our reports. We do note that our CT numbers were down slightly, and that would make sense given some of what happened in the year with the reduction in the Otrius volumes for a period of time. And we had, I believe it was in Q1, we may have had about a few days of downtime as we were waiting on YouTube. I paused because I was trying to remember the exact quarter it occurred in. I think it would have been less than 10 days, but I don't want to quote and say Q1, but it was in last year. And so that would have impacted the CT numbers a little bit. As it relates to our MRI numbers, what we noticed that we were doing multiple and longer studies. So though the actual numbers looks like it's down slightly, the actual revenue from MRI is up based on the studies that we're doing. And on that note, I must add that we do MRI of the prostate and MRI of the breast, which have a significant demand now. We're one of only 2 providers that really provide that scan, have it available available and have appointments available. And we actually now see quite a few patients, even from Kingston, coming because our pricing is so attractive that when they come on the toll, it actually is a net effect as if they did it in Kingston. So we do encourage, if you need any of those 2 scans to be done, to contact our offices, because you will have no long wait, and you can have it done within a 5-day turnaround time. And of course, the quality of our reports is unmatched. As it relates to the other studies, we saw a reduction in nuclear medicine, but recall that we would have been without a machine up until September last year, and we see those numbers starting to pick up as people become aware that we are back up and running at our 129 Pro location. Overall, though, the net effect is that our scan count has grown. It continues to grow into this new year, and with the addition of the acquisition, it's going to grow at an even faster pace. All right, so if we look at our revenue by location, we will note that Winchester, offering the largest amount of modalities, carries the bulk of the revenue at 45%. And though Otrius would have had some impact from our patients during after the hurricane period, they're still at the second highest in terms of revenue for that location at 35%. Our Moulines Road at 13, Old Hope Road 129 Pro, that is at 6%, and Women's Places would represent only 4 months, November, December, January, and February at 1%. A steady revenue intake per month, even though the percentage of the pie is not as large as other locations. There are 2 modalities that we offer, well, 3 modalities, I'm sorry, that we offer there: mammography, bone densitometry, and ultrasounds. And we do note that with the demand for ultrasounds, we're even able to have some of our patients that would have normally come to one of the other locations in Kingston visit the Woman's Place at 1 Stanton Terrace, which, given the levels of traffic in Kingston, if you can go somewhere closer to Ligon, if in that area, you do appreciate it as a patient. So that is also an option for our patients. So key milestones, I may have spoken to some of them, but I would just want to again place on record here the release that were done at the end of Q2 as it relates to our acquisition of the Woman's Place, which was finalized in Q3 effective November 1st. And as the shareholders may recall, we had indicated that was a cash purchase where we purchased paid the deposit for the lump sum of the business, but on our financial statements, on our balance sheet, you will note that we have the balance to pay, which is due by the end of October this year, of about 17 million. But it's a cash purchase and it is funded completely by cash. I'm seeing that the slides are gone, so I'm not quite sure what slide you're seeing next. Okay, our construction at 33 Lady Musgrave Road is, as Ad said, far advanced. So what do we have left to do? We need to just do the build out of the interior of the buildings, which would everything about our electrical, our HVAC system, our preparing the rooms with our lead lining, and then of course outfitting the place. I know that some people are of the view, and I guess wisely so, that this is a part that normally takes the longest, but our joint venture partner is focused on building out as a part of the arrangement. If we recall that we're shareholders, is that we actually provided the land towards the project, and our joint venture partner is outfitting completely our spaces to give us 12,000 square feet of finished space. And another 8,000 we will also purchase from the joint venture partner, and that will all be part of the ground and first floors that will be ready for occupancy towards the end of calendar year 2026. More on that to come, and at the AGM we will at that point share either pictures or some video footage so that we can actually see that the space is there and is ready to be outfitted and occupied later this year. So what's the outlook for the new year and the year ahead in the direct months? So with the acquisition of the second entity, Island Radiology, they actually, to give you a little context and history, as we would have shared in the release, they actually have 3 locations. They have a location in Mandeville, Caledonia Mall. They have a location in Ocho 8 Rivers, which though we have one in Ocho as well, theirs is more central to the hustle and bustle right in the town of Ocho. You know, ours is in White River North Commercial Complex, which is more on the outskirts of Ocho and closer to the St. Mary side. Both excellent locations. 8 Rivers tends to have a lot of persons who just walk in in the town, and I would make it akin to our Malines Road kind of location in Kingston for those who are more familiar with Kingston and Ocho Rios. That location offers quite a few modalities, fluoroscopy, they offer CTs, they offer mammography, they offer ultrasounds, they offer x-rays, and their opening hours are very similar to what patients enjoy from us now in Kingston, 8 o'clock in the morning to 5 p.m. and on Saturdays, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. They are actually very, very easy to get an appointment, just as it is with our Apex Radiology existing office in White River North. That location does good business, and we anticipate it will continue to do good business, and that's what we have seen since May 1st when we started some of the transition processes. They also have a location in Mandeville, which offers, in addition to the modalities I just listed, they also offer MRIs there. And we do see that they are the sole provider of MRIs in that area, central Jamaica right there. And they also offer bone densitometry, which is another not very popular modality, but is important, especially for patients who, well, I guess we will share a little bit more about that in the days ahead, but bone densitometry we offer there, and we also offer now at 1 Stanton Terrace. And they have a location in Santa Cruz, which currently is not up and running because of capacity now with the Apex Radiology brand and the capacity that we bring to the table with the increased number of radiographers and radiologists who are able to report. We see that location opening up in our Q2, and we actually see that it's going to redound to the benefit of not only the patients and referring doctors, but our shareholders based on the revenue it can bring in, as that location is in demand right now in Santa Cruz. It feeds many communities on the outskirts, as far as even the outskirts of Westmoreland, as there are not any other providers of ultrasound and x-ray. The main other competitor had some challenges after the hurricane, and I don't believe they are reopened. So we look forward to what it'll do. So the growth in revenue that will come will not only come from the existing portfolio of business, but also from these new acquired locations, and the rate of growth of revenue will definitely outpace any additional expenses on our books. And so shareholders can look forward to that in terms of what it will mean for performance. We anticipate completing that acquisition in Q2, and it's at that point I'll be able to share more in terms of the price paid and the payment arrangements. But what I will say is that we're actually going to finance that by debt. But what we have done deliberately as a board is to ensure that the payments on that are covered by the portfolio being acquired. So we're not going to use any of the existing business revenue or net profit to be able to pay for the acquired business. And so I believe our shareholders will be happy with the way that we have done it and structured it, and the analysis that went into making the decision, which will to benefit them in the medium and long term. Tighter management of our KPIs. So, we just spoke about what our margins are looking like and the levels that they're at. And so we intend to be managing towards that and the targets that we set going forward in an even more prudent manner. And expansion of strategic partnerships and referrals. And that's really just some of what we have started doing and will continue to do in terms of having particular partnerships, so that we have some entities using our service in bulk for either their team members or their patients themselves, which we believe as we form deeper relationships, this will be a benefit as we cement ourselves as the clear choice for diagnostic imaging in Jamaica. Based on our existing portfolio, even before acquiring Island Radiology, I believe that we can easily say in terms of number of modalities and locations that we lead the market, and the acquisition of the Island Radiology portfolio will just cement that fact. Our patient experience, I know that that's something that we continue to work on, and we have seen deliberate improvements in the wait time. But we do know that is the one thing that when people think about Apex Radiology, they also think that sometimes they come and if they're given their appointment, they may have a little time to wait. And so we've been deliberately working on that. And I believe that we have it down by modality, that how long the patients are actually waiting, to ensure that they're seen within 15 minutes. and we have a little bit more work to do as it relates to our CT patients, because we sometimes have emergency cases, which I can have at any point in time. An emergency case comes in and disrupts some of the flow, but our communication, we're ramping up on our communication to patients, that if we're running late, we let you know ahead of time. So that's something that we work on, we're mindful of, and we encourage you to continue to hold us accountable to delivering. And then sustainable long-term shareholder returns is always something that's top of mind, as it was our commitment when we went public in 2023 to ensure that we're creating real shareholder value into the future. All right, so on a lighter note, just to say that with all that serious work, we still did things as a team and together, and we did support in terms of our corporate social responsibility and getting the word out there. And very importantly, on February 26, 2026, we marked our 30th anniversary, years of providing faithful and caring service to Jamaica as it relates to diagnostic imaging, and to our referring doctors and the many patients who choose us over and over again, and also who encourage their family members to choose us. And on the left of this picture, well, it's left on my screen, I'm not sure what's on yours, you see a gentleman and a lady. Those are actually the first two employees of Apex Radiology, Joan Holness Jackson and Patrick Brown, which I just want to acknowledge them along with Dr. Bridgewater and Dr. McDonough, our two co-founders, would have been the longest serving persons here, and they continue to serve here. As a matter of fact, in looking at our 30th anniversary celebrations, we recognize that 43 of our 86 employees, so half of our employees, have been here for 5 years and longer, you know. So really, in terms of the team and the commitment to being here and being a part of the team, it is there. So we are proud that we seem to be an employer of choice. If we break that stat down a little bit further, then we, of the 43, 20 of them would have been here less than 10 years, but 23 would have been here for longer than 10 years. So we have a good level of staff retention. And this picture just really shows something that we did at all our locations. On the 26th, we cut a symbolic cake to celebrate our anniversary across all our branches. All right. Outside of that, we participated as a team in the Sigma Run in February. And then we also participated in the Pink Run, which was postponed because of the hurricane in October. I believe it happened at the end of November, and our team participated. And then we had our first ever blood drive, because as a part of our 30th anniversary celebrations, we chose to actually give back. I don't know why I used my picture, but we had 20-something patients and team members who actually signed up to give blood. I believe in the end only about a dozen or so could actually qualify. It was a good thing because people got to know their numbers and recognize what their position was. And we know that it was our first outing at this, and we are confident in the years ahead. And we recognize that it's very important that we actually give back as an ongoing part of our demonstration of being a partner in providing healthcare services in Jamaica, and that we encourage our patients to give back. We learned in that process, or I learned that I think blood is the only thing that you can't manufacture, right? So without giving blood, there is a real impact to the potential to save people's lives. And so we encourage every Jamaican, if you can and you're so able, you never know when the life you save could be your own or that of a family member, to give blood when you can. So we did our part there. And we also, in the year, which we're very proud of, at the Stock Exchange Awards ceremony in December of 2025, being a newly listed entity, at the time, less than 3 years, we actually won the second runner-up for investor relations and market disclosure, which is a category that speaks to our level of governance, due diligence in reporting on time and reporting accurate numbers. It speaks to our level of shareholder engagement. So thanks to this for the opportunity of this platform and the community here, and what this platform does in terms of people watching at a later point, we are able to converse with our shareholders. The fact that we also invite you to write to us at shareholders@apex-radiology.com, and that we actively engage and try to answer as many questions as possible. We do interviews in the written press as well, and on the radio, so that our traditional media, we have social media postings, so that our investors are kept abreast of everything that is happening within their company. And in the picture on the right was a picture taken with, I believe this one was with the Food for the Poor team after Hurricane Melissa, when we were handing over our contribution, which we made on behalf of not just us as a company, but all our shareholders. We gave 600,000 to the Food for the Poor and 600,000 to Jamaica Cancer Society for their support of hurricane victims following Melissa. And I think that sums up my presentation, and I now welcome your questions.
Thank you so much, Kisha. As always, very comprehensive report and much appreciated. So we do have about 14 questions lined up so far. Yes, we have quite a few to get through.
Sure.
So we are going to jump right in. And the first one is from Jamaica Politics TV asking, how will IPCL pay for the acquisition of Island Radiology? And I believe you would have said it in the presentation, but
yes, I can just quickly repeat it. So we actually are going to do debt financing for it. And what we have done is ensured and modeled to ensure that the revenues from that business can actually pay the loan costs and contribute to the bottom line, so that we are not using the existing business to pay for that new business.
Awesome.
And of course, we negotiated very, very attractive loan rates because of our performance and our servicing of our debt, which we have never missed in the history of our existence, a loan payment. We're able to negotiate very, very good rates and fixed for the term of the loan. It's a 5-year facility that we actually negotiated, so it's not also a long loan tenure.
That is good to know. So the next question is from Elaine. He may not be on the call, but he did send his questions in advance. Okay. So on his behalf, he says, people can only be convinced if you are buying the dream that you are selling. In other words, the CEO of IPCL has not bought a single share of the company that she runs in 3 years. Where's the rest of the question?
I guess
because you're not convinced of the dream or vision, right? There you go.
So what I would say in response to that is, I mean, we all have to balance our lives, and I'm a lady that I like to live within my means. And so I purchased a good amount of shares initially. And I am, along with my husband, we are putting 2 children through university overseas, which I'm sure Elaine can see the exchange rate. And so it's just a matter of time. One just graduated, so Elaine can tell me congrats. And therefore, we only have 1 child left to go, and then we can get back to investing for our future. But I wouldn't take that to mean that I don't believe in the dream, because I wouldn't be here putting my name, reputation, and character on the line and speaking to our shareholders every quarter if I didn't believe in what we were doing.
Thank you so much for that. And congratulations, indeed.
Thank you.
The next one, also from Elaine, says salary makes up the bulk of expenditure on the cost side. At this time, do you think the company is overstaffed and top heavy? And are you looking to take on more personnel?
Okay, so I don't think we are overstaffed. If we look at our growth, considering the number of locations and the number of modalities we've expanded, and there was a slide that spoke of the staff count. I believe we're somewhere in the region of 70-something, and we're now at 86. We took on 3 last year, and I believe it was flat the year prior. So we are definitely not overstaffed. If you recall, we had actually hired a COO. So outside of the CEO position, we don't have a very top-heavy structure. We have a marketing manager, we have a head of BAMID and IT, which is why we don't have and are not plagued with as much downtime and equipment failures as other entities. We have a chief accountant, which is important to produce our numbers on a timely basis and that we can know where we are. We have a chief radiographer, which is the head of our technical team that manages all the radiographers who deliver our services. We have a operations manager for our call center. And we have a people experience manager that came on last year around the HR matters, because prior it would have been the CEO who would have dealt with the HR portfolio solely. And the people experience manager also deals with our customer experience side of it, because we want to ensure that we maintain that level and standard. If we think about it, it is unusual actually that you have a CEO and not a COO, and we had a COO, and that venture was not in the way that both parties wanted it at the time. And so we're actually recruiting for another COO. But considering our structure relative to others, we're really not top heavy at all. As it relates to our plans for the future, well, with the new acquisition, we have to take on some of the staff numbers to actually run those 3 additional locations. But what you'll find is that we won't have to replicate some services, so we won't have to replicate Biomed IT manager, marketing manager, chief accountant, because those activities will be subsumed under the portfolios of the existing. So I really think we're managing a very lean operations. And if you look at the growth in our admin expenses, 3-point-something% less than inflation, which would mean that we managed all our utilities and all our other expenditure less than inflation, and our staff costs growing less than 2%, which will mean we'll manage our staff costs also at such a low increase year over year. It is proof in the numbers that we are actually not running a very inefficient structure as it relates to our staffing.
Thank you for that, Kisha. And clearly, you know your numbers, right? And we would have spoken about it in the cost management slide earlier as well. And of course, you can see the details in the audited financials. So thank you for that, Kisha. The next question is from O'Neill. What percentage of the construction project is completed?
Okay, so there are 6 floors, I believe, and all 6 floors are up, and I think 5 of the 6 floors have been, what do you call it now? I guess rendered is a proper term I'm thinking about. And we're now at the point of our floors actually doing the design with the electrical engineer signed off around the electrical connections and the HVAC system, etc. So the structure itself is up, is actually now the build out. That's the phase that we're in. And what is being done is that our floors are being built out by the joint venture partner, and the other floors, I believe some of them may have been sold to entities that are not high traffic producing and that are also complementary. Those will be built out as the persons who either bought them or intend to occupy them are so ready. But we'll be in a position that we will move in for December 2026.
And congratulations on that as well.
Thank you.
Looking forward to it. David Rose is asking, well, you just answered that. when is the LMR property set to be open?
Okay, by December.
Right.
That's what we're targeting, yes.
His next question is, what is the state of the Oterius business post Melissa?
Okay, all right. So now post Melissa, we actually, and into this new financial year, we actually see a full rebound. And I think it's very important to note that despite Melissa and despite not having the level of referrals that we had directly with the payer MOH, remember I said that went down from 25% even the year right before to less than 5%. We are actually seeing our numbers in our existing portfolio of business grow. So Oterius was at 35% in the last year, and so far into this year, it is growing at a good rate. So we're starting to see the impact of what we intended for the MRI modality and the mammography modality. So the numbers, I think in Q1, what we'll do for our shareholders is also to break out that revenue by location, so you can actually see what's happening for each of the locations.
Sounds good. Next question from David. Is the overarching strategy for Image Plus to build brand awareness and strengthen the value prop of the company across its various locations?
Yes, it sounds like David is reading our mind now. So yes, because we're looking now at consolidation. So we think that with these 2 acquisitions, that it's now for us to focus on the service delivery, the brand awareness, because believe it or not, even though 30 years and quite a few people are aware, there are still some that don't know the full range of modalities that we offer. And so building that and the value proposition in terms of the experience that our patients have, the quality of our reports is already there and second to none. The pricing, we are competitive with our pricing. We are not the most expensive nor the second most expensive in the market. And so we believe that we offer a good value for every dollar that the patient spends with, and that the doctors can be aware that once they get their reports in a timely manner, the quality of the reports will be there to help them in the diagnosis of their patients. So definitely that's what we're about now, to actually just cement the brand into the future.
Wonderful. And we look forward to partnering with you in getting that done. Another question from Elaine: with an increase in inflation, is IPCL currently looking at a price adjustment?
Okay, so what we do is we actually manage the margins of our offering, because you don't want to, well, one, outprice yourself in the market. And then two, we also recognize that we're offering a critical service that some patients who have to come for repeat visits, depending on if they have a cancer diagnosis, etc., they have to be able to afford. And not many Jamaicans, not enough Jamaicans benefit from health insurance. We also note that we are able to write to the National Health Fund and to actually appeal to them on behalf of patients for their board consideration. And they also have put on more tests and diagnostic screening as a part of their card if you go and sign up for it. Because in the last year alone, they put on a subsidy for doing your mammograms, and I believe another subsidy for prostate screening. And so whereas that happens and everybody's doing their part, we're doing our part by trying to look at our cost management. And that's why I would have done some things around our procurement and inventory to try and manage the cost there, so that we can maintain our margins and be fair to our shareholders, but then we can also keep our services affordable so that our patients and their doctors can be able to afford it. Because what's the point in pricing yourself to the level that people can't afford to use the services, you know? So that's not the model that we're going for. We're trying to strike that happy balance to be fair to our shareholders, but then to also be fair to our patients, and recognizing that, you know, in good conscience, we're providing a healthcare service.
Thank you for that. That's a very thoughtful approach. The next question is from Kirk. Can management consider passing a resolution for a share buyback when management deems the stock to be undervalued?
I know that was a discussion that we started at our board level. That's the most I'll comment now by saying that, I mean, you have enough persons on the board who are financially savvy and looking at all of that. And we do believe, again, I'm not giving investment advice, that our share is definitely undervalued. And we'll probably engage in some kind of discussion in the market about that in this year. I mean, we were quite busy last year, as you can imagine, managing through change and managing through the negotiations for these acquisitions and getting our 33 LMR property where we need it to be able to occupy this year. But I believe that is something that we will have a discussion at that level at the board this year, and at the right time, come back to our shareholders to discuss.
Thank you. And I think that's a segue into Yardi-J's comment, saying that it is a good company. And why is the share price decreasing, though? And I know that's not a question that you can answer fully, but it is something that clearly the shareholders and the wider public has noted that.
Yeah, and especially when you look at the very small block of shares that it's trading on, you know, it's very unusual. I mean, the entire market is down, but it's very unusual. I think when you look at ours, it's very small quantum of shares that are impacting the price. Yeah. Correct.
All right. So we are down to 6 questions, and David.
So we only did 8 all of that time a while ago.
All of that time. Well, some more came in, to be fair. So David's next question is the company expecting to rent a portion of 53 LMR property once it is completed?
All right, so we don't own the entire property, because as a part of the joint venture, we contribute to the land. We'll get the 12,000 square feet. We'll buy 8,000 square feet. So we'll own in the end 20,000 square feet, and we have the agreements around that. The remaining 30-something thousand square feet will belong to the developer, because remember, we're getting our space fully outfitted and developed. And so that will be up to the developer. I believe some floors are sold already and some are being rented.
Okay, thank you. David again is saying the company converted a larger portion of its receivables into cash during the year. Do you expect to grow the business beyond the Ministry of Health referrals during the current financial year?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely. And I think we've shown that, because we were able to, as I said before, and I'll repeat again, convert the actual number of scans and the patient revenue from over 45% MOH to less than 5% within a 2-year period. So I think we have demonstrated that we are growing outside of that, and we will continue to grow outside of that.
And that is a great accomplishment. So congrats on that as well. Next
Thank
question.
you.
Is this kind of environment where inflation is high does the company expect to stock up on its cash reserves this year?
Okay, so I think it's a delicate balance. So with cash, we were able to purchase the woman's place, so we chose to do it as a cash purchase. We would be, of course, looking at all the time our leverage kind of ratio and our borrowings. As it relates to our cash, we have a healthy cash balance, and we try to keep a certain amount of expenses in cash just in the event of anything. And then free cash in the year ahead, we will look at whether it is a matter of dividend payments or any investment in any other modality, which I can't foresee one right now. So we will just maintain a healthy cash flow strategy, invest what we can, dividends what we can, so that will be our approach.
All right, thank you. Will there be sufficient parking at the new LMR location? Also, how is the company scaling its relationship with doctors for referrals?
All right. Okay, so as it relates to parking, we believe, and we're taking steps to ensure that there is sufficient parking. We believe that it's sufficient now, but we're taking steps to ensure by looking at arrangements for our staff members in particular, so that everything on property can be for our patients. As it relates to referring physicians, in the last year, we would have converted one of our CSR roles to a marketing executive on the road to actually assist with that very effort to ensure that our hospitals and referring doctors are seeing us often, get to share with us any of their pain points or things to be resolved, to ensure that we remain their provider of choice. So the company has traditionally grown on good relationships and partnerships with referring doctors, and we intend to keep so doing.
Okay, great. Jamaica Politics is asking, have you been seeing an increase in performance of the Woman's Place asset since acquisition as it compares to the previous due diligence exercise?
Yes, it has actually outperformed what we anticipated, save and except for 1 month, December. And that's really because I guess it would have outperformed in December, but normally they're closed. So we didn't get the level that we wanted to in December because people just didn't know that they were open, and it being just a 1 month into the acquisition, the awareness wasn't yet there in terms of the difference in the operating procedure. So, but I guess I could sum up by saying, yes, we have seen it. Each month we have seen the revenue levels better than what we anticipated in our modeling.
Wonderful. And our current final question is from David Rose. Despite there being some restoration in the West, are you still receiving increased traffic flow from that region at your other locations?
Okay, so for mammography, definitely we're seeing it. We are seeing MRI referrals, a few more from the West. Not seeing so much ultrasounds and x-rays, I guess just based on the nature of those, because that would be easier to get up and running back out in the West. So we are seeing it. And the good thing about when people know now that you're an option that they didn't know of before because they didn't have need to know, then we're seeing people come back even though their original provider is still open because they were so happy with the level of service that they got. So, all these things matter. And I anticipate that we will continue to see the referrals from those sources. And our marketing team use the opportunity to go out West during the time to actually just make people more aware of our offerings.
And Jamaica Politics is stating that the Island Radiology Mandeville location has a parking challenge. What is the plan to tackle that?
Okay, so I won't pretend to have every answer. So we're looking at that to determine what we can best arrange. Having been there myself a few times in the last few months, I haven't really had that experience, but I could have just been lucky on every occasion. But we will certainly look at it and advise as we look at taking over rather the entire operations of that location.
Great. And will IPCL seek a partnership with Hargreaves Memorial Hospital for diagnostic services?
Oh my, what a detailed question. I can't answer that now, but we'll look at it and see if we can give an update at the AGM.
Yes, I think that can be taken as a takeaway suggestion.
Yes.
At this point.
It's a strong suggestion.
Okay, and that takes us to the end of our questions for today. I thank you so much, Kisha, as always, for the time, the clarity, the transparency with which you have shared today. I want to give you another minute or two to just speak to your shareholders as you close out. And before I hand over, say thank you to our audience for being here and for participating. And please do remember that if it is that you have additional questions, you're free to put them in the comments, but you can also email shareholders@apex-radiology.com, which was put in the chat earlier and will be added to the description box for ease of access. So with that, over to you, Kisha.
I thank you, Renee. I think I will just sum up by saying to our shareholders that, as I said when I started, we've demonstrated our resilience and we're demonstrating that we are a company that is built to last. I believe you've been patient with us through 2 years of profit revenue or net profit levels that you had hoped would have been better. And I believe that in the financial year 2027, you will start to see some of the fruits of your waiting. To Jamaica, I will say that our promise is to serve you with care, empathy, and excellence to ensure that the quality of our diagnostic scans and our reports will aid your doctors, and that we really want the opportunity to be your partner or your diagnostic imaging location of choice. We have expanded through the acquisitions our number of locations to make our services more accessible. The number of modalities that we offer span a wide range: X-ray, ultrasound, mammography, nuclear medicine, fluoroscopy, MRIs, interventional procedures. And in so doing, we can offer mostly everything that you will need in your healthcare journey. Our commitment is to keep transparent so that our shareholders are well aware of everything that is happening and that they will be confident in the days ahead that they made a good investment when they chose to buy the IPO stock in 2023. So we thank you for the opportunity to serve, and we look forward to continue serving Jamaica. Thank you.
At Apex Radiology, service is more than a word. It's our promise. Our dedicated staff is here to make the process as hassle-free as possible. From booking your appointments, to doing your procedures, to delivering fast results, we go above and beyond. It's not just about the scans, it's about people. Apex Radiology, the clear choice for all your diagnostic needs.